Welcome back to PHCodal. Today we're diving straight into a highly requested explainer covering a massive, literally a landmark Supreme Court ruling on media talent regularization. We're talking about GMA Network Incorporated versus Cabaluna. Now, if you've been following labor law developments at all, or, if you're a law student currently prepping for exams, you already know this case is an absolute game changer for the broadcast industry and the gig economy as a whole. To help you actually master this material for your recitations, we're going to strictly stick to the FAIR method today. We'll quickly hit the facts, the issues, the ruling, and then deep dive into the legal reasoning. All right, part one, the facts. Let's get into it. So the timeline here is kind of wild. It perfectly illustrates how a simple administrative directive basically blew up into a full-blown due labor case. Picture this. Prior to 2014, you have 142 workers. We're talking segment producers, cameramen, writers, and they all sign these fixed-term talent agreements with GMA, ranging anywhere from a single month to 5 years. Then, in 2014, the Bureau of Internal Revenue issues a regulation saying independent contractors need to register and issue official receipts. GMA tells these workers, hey, you gotta comply with this. But the workers push back. They file a regularization complaint essentially saying, wait a minute, we're actual employees, not independent contractors. As tensions start to really boil over, GMA changes how they get paid, switching from direct bank credits to physical checks. This was the tipping point. The workers stage a mass leave in protest. GMA views this as a breach of contract and a refusal to work, so they terminate them. Boom. Now we have a second complaint, illegal dismissal. Now the workers, the respondents here, they didn't just throw out vague complaints. They had specific arguments. They pointed out they were bound by an exclusivity clause, meaning they literally couldn't work for other networks. On top of that, they had to go through a super rigorous hiring process, submitting NBI clearances, passing medical exams, doing formal interviews. But most crucially, they argued that GMA tightly controlled the actual means and methods of their daily work. Moving right along to part two, the issues. Take a mental snapshot of these two specific questions, because how you answer the first one completely dictates the result of the second. Question one, are the respondents regular employees or are they independent contractors? And question two, were they illegally dismissed from their employment? The court made it clear that these two issues are completely intertwined. Okay, part three, the ruling. Let's see what the court actually decided. The Supreme Court totally struck down GMA's defense. They decisively ruled that the respondents are, in fact, regular employees of the network. They are not independent contractors. And because of that, regarding the second issue, the court found that GMA illegally dismissed 35 of these respondents when they refused to renew their contracts or terminated them right after that mass leave protest. And the real-world fallout of this? Absolutely massive. The financial consequence here is staggering. The court affirmed the order for reinstatement without loss of seniority rights, plus back wages that were tentatively computed at over 21 million pesos for the illegally dismissed employees. Talk about a severe financial penalty for misclassifying your workforce, right? Finally, part four, the legal reasoning. The absolute most important part for your exams. So why exactly did the court rule this way? This is where we really need to highlight the specific legal tests applied. The whole analysis kicks off with Article 295 of the Labor Code. This article basically says that regular employment exists when an employee performs activities that are usually necessary or desirable in the usual business or trade of the employer. The court looked at what these workers actually did, operating cameras, researching video, producing segments, writing scripts. They concluded, quite logically, that these functions are absolutely indispensable to a broadcasting network. I mean, without them, there is literally no show to air. But the true anchor of this entire decision, and seriously, star this in your notes, is the fourfold test. This is the absolute gold standard in Philippine labor law for figuring out if an employer-employee relationship exists. You've got four elements. 1, the employer's selection and engagement of the employee. 2, the payment of wages. 3, the power to dismiss. And 4, the power of control over the employee's conduct. Let's walk through exactly how the court applied this test, step by step, to the GMA talents. So the court basically went down the list and systematically ticked off the boxes. For selection and engagement, they pointed out that GMA made these candidates go through a battery of tests, medical exams, and drug checks. That completely shatters the illusion that they were just some loosely engaged independent contractors. Then, for payment of wages, the workers were paid their quote-unquote talent fees super regularly, twice a month straight to a designated bank account. That looks exactly like the standard remuneration for any regular employee. What about the third element, the power of dismissal? Well, GMA tried to argue they didn't fire anyone, they just had the power to not renew a contract. But the court saw right through that. They pointed straight to GMA's own internal guidelines, which clearly laid out specific penalties, things like written reminders, suspensions, and, yes, outright termination of the agreement for various offenses. That clearly establishes the power to discipline and dismiss. And that brings us to the fourth, and definitely the most significant element, the power of control. Okay, if you're looking for a smoking gun in this case, well, here it is. This is a direct quote from paragraph 14 of GMA's very own general terms that were attached to the talent agreements. It literally says that GMA retains all creative, editorial, administrative, financial, and legal control, and get this, that the talent shall defer to GMA's judgment. The court noted that this one single clause completely destroys the defense that these workers had independent freedom over how they did their jobs. GMA controlled not just the final product, but exactly how the work was executed every step of the way. Now, here's a really interesting twist. GMA tried to pull the Sansa card. They relied heavily on a super famous prior Supreme Court case, Sansa versus ABS-CBN, where broadcast journalist Jay Sansa was actually declared an independent contractor. But the court explicitly distinguished Cabaluna from Sansa. Actually, they are completely different. Unlike Sansa, who had this massive celebrity status and the leverage to negotiate his own highly lucrative terms, the GMA talents here had zero bargaining power. They were just handed standard form contracts to sign. Plus, look at the money. The talent's salaries ranged from 13,000 to 84,000 pesos, while Sansa was pulling in 300,000 pesos a month, and that was way back in 1994. The court firmly stated in the resolution that there is simply no way you can claim ordinary cameramen and production assistants are independent contractors on the exact same level as a highly paid celebrity broadcast journalist. The sheer staggering difference in compensation and bargaining power means the respondents just don't sit on equal footing with someone like Sansa. Because of that, the exclusivity clause in their contract wasn't some special negotiated benefit. It was literally just another tool for the employer to exert control. So what does this all mean for us? What's the big takeaway? Well, this ruling fundamentally shifts the entire landscape of labor rights in the Philippine broadcast industry. It sends a crystal clear message. Labels do not matter. You can slap the title talent agreement on a contract all day long, but if the fourfold test points to an employer-employer relationship, regular employment rights are going to apply, period. Which leaves us with a really provocative question to think about. If networks can no longer use these fixed-term agreements as a loophole to avoid providing benefits to their essential everyday crew members, how in the world are they going to adapt their hiring and financial models moving forward? It's going to be fascinating to watch. And that wraps up our fair analysis of GMA Network versus Cabaluna. If you found this structured case digest explainer helpful for your studies or your practice, please do drop a like, let me know your thoughts on this huge landmark ruling down in the comments below, and definitely don't forget to subscribe to PHCodal. We'll be back really soon to break down even more complex Supreme Court decisions. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.